lovely people! As you can probably tell from the title of this video, today we're going to talk about my first comic book.
Dooby 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 doo. Dooby 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 Sophie Vlogs.
You may have seen the series of videos I did with my friend Mark, where we watched Disney films and then recapped them for you in what I assume is a highly entertaining manner. You might not think so, but we did. Mark also writes comic reviews. I'll include links to his blogs in the description-y thing down below. But he has tagged me to talk about my first comic, and I thought I would talk about it rather than write about it. I am very fortunate insofar as I have extremely nerdy parents. So ever since I was little, I've been brought up to love music and sci-fi and fantasy and all of these wonderful things that are so important to me and have really shaped who I am. I know them because my parents love them and they introduced them to me. So my first comic is not one that I actually picked and read myself. My first, and I don't know what issue it was either. 2000 AD is a British comic that is, it's like a compilation of lots of different stories each week. The one that most people will know is Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd is 2000 AD's sort of staple comic story in it. In every issue there is always a Judge Dredd story at the start. It's also had things like the ABC Warriors and Strontium Dog. It's had writers like Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore. It's got all of these wonderful science fiction-y, fantasy type things in it. I think it was founded in the late 70s. I think my dad has been buying it, or used to buy it, for a very long time. Maybe the 80s he started buying it, I think. So he had a massive collection of them. The reason I am rambling on about 2000 AD is because when I was little, my dad used to read 2000 AD comics to me. So, I mean, I could probably read them myself, but I think he liked to filter out anything that was a little bit too violent, I think, maybe. So I don't actually remember what my specific first comic was, because I just have this vague knowledge of being reading 2000 ADs with my dad. Probably my favourite little series within the 2000 AD comics is the Nikolai Dante series, which when I was a kid I just absolutely loved. The basic premise of the Nikolai Dante series was that it's sort of like this Russian empire, and Nikolai Dante is the main character. And he's the illegitimate offspring of Katerina Dante, who's a pirate queen, and Dmitry Romanov, who's this aristocrat. Essentially, the Tsar of Russia is not a very nice person. We don't really like him. We don't like Dante's dad either. Nasty piece of work. So the point that I started reading it was kind of halfway through the actual story, so I'm mildly fuzzy on all of the earlier details. But from the point where I started reading it, it was Nikolai Dante in opposition to the Tsar and his father and all of these forces. So it's like rebellion against this empire and all of this stuff. It was all very exciting. The really cool detail of it is that there's these things in that universe called weapons crests. Dante's father's family, the Romanovs, they all have weapons crests, which they genetically bond to you, and once they're bonded it's like a symbiotic thing. You can't remove them or anything, and they give you all of these fancy powers and abilities and all that sort of stuff. It's pretty cool. And Dante steals one that's intended for his half-brother, and so he has this weapons crest, which means his arm can turn into a sword and all this really cool stuff. And kind of adds to the fact that him as a character really reminds me of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. Not just because you've got vaguely sentient technology that you're kind of bonded with, but just personality wise they just really remind me of each other, and also kind of physically ever so slightly. They've got a goatee thing going on. I don't know. I also really liked, I think, if memory serves me correctly, she's the daughter of the Tsar. She's called Jenna, and she's sort of the love interest for Nikolai Dante, and she rebels against her father's institution and blah blah blah, and they have like an on again, off again romance type thing, and Child Sophie was a sucker for that relationship. I just wanted them to be happy. I don't want to give spoilers, but they didn't end up happy a lot. Shit went down. The Nikolai Dante series has actually finished running now. They've concluded that storyline, which I haven't actually read the end of it because comics are expensive, and especially a weekly comic is quite expensive to buy every week. So we stopped buying them, and we actually sold my dad's massive collection of them. But my dad used to, on his lunch breaks, go into W.H. Smith and read through, just flick through, see what was happening, and then he'd come back and he'd tell me all about what had happened to Nikolai Dante, which was really nice, kind of like a continuation on of this when he used to read it to me when I was little, which I kind of like. I don't know how I feel about the ending of it, because a lot of stuff happened, and it was quite dramatic, and I really just, one day I would like to be able to read them and actually like experience it properly, because I feel like I'm going to get very emotional over it, because I feel emotional over it, and I've only heard it secondhand. So yeah, my first comic experience was 2000 AD, and I'm really glad that that was my first comic experience, because I feel like it was one of my earliest experiences of science fiction and all that sort of stuff, and I really feel like some of the stories that I read in there have like shaped me as a person, and I just really like it. I think it's such a great comic. I love how, because it's always formed of lots of different comics, I really like the fact that in each issue you get a variety of stories and of art styles, and you'll have the same story will continue but different artists will take it over, so I liked seeing that change and see how different artists interpret the same characters and stuff. I thought that was cool, and I just think it's a really great comic. So if you like comics and you've never looked at 2000 AD, I would totally recommend you pick it up. If you're into science fiction-y sort of things, again, massive recommendations. And that's just a little bit of information about my first comic, really. I hope you like it. This is a tag challenge, so I'm going to tag Leah, because I'd be interested to hear about what your first comic was. And if you're watching this, I am tagging you. Not necessarily to do a video, just like leave me a comment, let me know what your first experience of comics was, / if you haven't read any but you would like to, what you want to start with, and let me know if you've read 2000 AD and if you have thoughts and any storylines that you particularly enjoyed, because I'd love to hear about them. So I hope you have a really lovely day. I hope you read some really good comics soon, maybe, and lots of sunshine to you all.